Hey everyone, and welcome back to What After Dentistry. I hope that you guys have seen our last video where we basically discussed the scope and opportunities in the field of healthcare management after BDS. Keeping that conversation in continuation with Dr. Moona, in today's video, we are going to understand the opportunities in the field of health insurance after BDS. Now, there are times that you, as a fresh dental graduate, can directly work with these health insurance companies as a part of their clinical team in the claims processing. So, if you're someone who wants to work in the health insurance industry, then this video is for you, as it will help you to understand the profiles offered to both a fresh medical or dental graduate and someone with a healthcare management degree after graduation. Check it out. So, welcome back, Dr. Moona, to talk about the opportunities in the field of health insurance after BDS or MDS. Welcome you once again on our channel.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sharma.
So, we wanted to understand, since you've been working in this sector for so long, what are the various opportunities that one can look at in the sphere of health insurance after BDS?
All right. So I think I would like to start with just giving an overview of what a typical health insurance company will look like, and then we can go deeper into understanding where a healthcare management graduate after dentistry would fit into in these sort of areas, right? So as a health insurance company, you have some core areas which are very specific to a health insurance company, and you have also supporting areas. Like the core areas, for example, would be underwriting, actuarials, claims, and pre-authorizations. And the supporting structures or the supporting fields would be things like sales and marketing, you have finance, you have HR, which are things that any company would need as apart from their core business structures. That these supporting functions would also, are required very much to make the company go ahead, right? So after your healthcare management, you can either look at going into core health insurance spaces that I have spoken about earlier, or the supporting spaces, right? So as a health insurance professional, claims becomes one of the most easiest things to get into because that's where most of the medical related decisions get made. Also pre-authorizations. That's also one of the places where clinical decisions or clinical conversations are had before you say, pass a treatment or not based on medical necessity. And once that claim has come through, if nobody has seen it at the pre-authorization phase, then you have to look at those. You need to have those clinical conversations at the claims phase, right? So as a medical background person, especially someone who has done dentistry, that's where your clinical background really comes into picture, right? But if you want to showcase your clinical and your management background, then in these spaces you can look at a supervisory or a managerial role to sort of manage the entire operations of a claims team. So you're looking at how many claims are coming in, what is the turnaround time you have promised to your clients. Okay, once the claim comes in, I will turn them around, or I will pay them within 5 days. So when you have, say, 1,000 claims coming in, and you have only 5 people in your team to do that, how is it as a manager you will then manage what claims get looked at first, what can be kept on for a later stage? These are the small, daily team handling and managerial roles that you can look at if you do want to look at purely clinical decision making related roles, right? So these are the things that you might end up doing as a healthcare management / dentistry background person in a health insurance industry in the claims and pre-authorization space. Then you have underwriting and actuarials, which are a little more specialized. Especially actuarials, they prefer or they tend to have more people who are from a statistics or a maths or actuarial sciences background. So that space becomes a little difficult to crack into, and And frankly, if you don't have the aptitude for it, then I wouldn't suggest that you look at those spaces, because they become very very technical, and you need to really be qualified to get into that space. Underwriting is also quite specialized, but it's something that you can if you have a strong liking towards it, or even an aptitude for it, it's something that you probably can learn along the job. So that's the space that I would encourage someone to explore if they are interested in, right? Besides that, then you have auditing and fraud, waste, and abuse management related roles. That's where I am at presently in my company. So basically, that's one step ahead after the claims and have been processed or whatever. It's one step ahead. It's more of an analytical role to see how is it that the past year has been with relation to our claims. So maybe it seems like we have spent way more than what we had anticipated on paying out our claims, and then you want to ask the question why. Right? It's not just that you might be getting into a loss. Your clients also might be not very happy about that claims ratio. So you want to dig deeper and see why that has happened. Is it because people have just simply claimed more, or is it because some doctor is you know not necessarily trying to create fraud, but is not very sure of the practices, so he's just simply writing two tests to be sure, and he needs some training around these claims guidelines. Or maybe there is an actual fraud. And then maybe there is a provider or a doctor who is simply sending us ghost claims, we call them, because nobody has shown up to his clinic, but he has simply made a whole claim and an invoice and then send it for processing, right? So that's the other extreme of the whole chain of an actual fraud happening. So you need to have clinical and experienced people who can look at this data you have for the past 1 year and be able to ask the right questions to justify the change in these data patterns.
Correct.
Right? So yeah, you need to be able to look at it and say, last year this provider has billed us an X amount. This year it is two times that. Why is that happening? And then you'll be able to get into those have focused discussions with that provider. Or you say that, okay, last year dental fillings have cost us say $1,000. This year they're costing us $10,000. Why is that? What is that increase about? Is it because just more people have gone and filled their teeth, or is it because some clinics have increased their rates? Is it because some people some providers are simply hiking up? They have filled 5 teeth. Are they writing 12 fillings? What is going on, right? So then maybe you want to dig deeper and focus on some dentists and say, okay, I find something not correct with this person's billing trends. So I want to look at the medical records. So you either go to that clinic personally, or since the pandemic, that hasn't really happened because we are sort of being limited in our approach. So we ask for a digital transfer of the files to have a closer look at them. And then once, say, you have been given patient records, you have been given OPGs, you have been given CBCT reports. If there's no trained person who can look at these, then that entire exercise is kind of pointless, right? So here's one of the places where somebody with a dental background becomes very, very important. So yeah, that's the role that I am currently doing. And I also get involved with improving the efficiencies with regards to our dental pre-authorizations and claiming processes, because dental decision making is a very specialized or a niche field, right? So, for example, if you have outsourced your claims, your pre-authorization to somebody else, right, some other company, but you don't have specialized people to make that call. Suppose a provider calls a health insurance company who is and the pre-authorization is being handled by an outsourced company, and they're saying, okay, I need to do, it's a child 7 years of age, and I need to do 10 fillings on this child. So unless you are from that space, you understand that that seems really excessive, right? And you then want to ask the right kind of questions. You know, can I have the indication? Why is it, are you going to do all 10 in the same day? If not, then can I have the the breakdown? What kind of filling materials are you going to use? Things like that. So these are questions that a layperson is simply not equipped or trained to ask. So someone with a background, a clinical or medical background, becomes very important there. So then I also get involved with like training or bringing these teams up to speed and helping them or empowering them to ask the right questions so they can make good clinical decisions based on our behalf, right? So my skill also gets in comes in the picture to improve that work stream. So not only am I involved in actually detecting or investigating any fraud, waste, and abuse trends that may happen, I'm also making sure that they are not happening in the first place by helping our support functions to make the right decisions. So yes, that's where I am at my career right now in my company.
That's really amazing, and the way you've progressed, I think that's really commendable. Also, the sectors that you have laid down for anybody who want to work into this sector, I think those are really important sectors. The breakdown that you have done, some operational, departments, and then the supportive departments. I think that's really good, and all your audience can, you can point down these departments and or work areas within health insurance and decide for yourself which one do you fit into, and then you can start off your career into that particular space. So are the MDS graduates, are they given any edge over other candidates, or maybe over BDS who wants to get into health insurance?
Um, I don't really think that maybe an MDS would have an edge over, because the kind of work that I have just described becomes a combination of clinical skills as well as analytical and data oriented and business related skills as well. So if you have a good enough foundation through your BDS in the clinical space, and you have a good enough knowledge or command over the business side of things through your management degree, I think that's the perfect combination. But if you have a higher standing in your clinical skills through an MDS, that wouldn't really give you any kind of an edge, because that's a skill set that is not really required in the health insurance space.
Correct.
Maybe with an MDS degree, you might be a more valuable professional. Let's just say maybe in a dental equipment or materials companies that produce materials and equipment. So someone with a specialized knowledge around that product would be of higher value with that company than maybe a health insurance company. Right? Maybe say, for example, the company that makes Invisalign, right? So someone with an orthodontics MDS would be highly valued over there, right? Because that's the product which is revolving around orthodontics, right? So that's the sector that I would encourage people with an MDS degree to look at if they want to branch out of clinical practice and want to do something else in the corporate space. Then maybe those are the kind of industries you would want to see.
Correct. I think that's absolutely, you mentioned very correctly. Yes. A more specialized zone of area, I think one should try getting into that. Also, I wanted to understand, like, what is the difference between the profile that many profiles, are being shared or being given. There are many roles which are offered to a fresh BDS graduate with a non-healthcare management background. So, what is the difference, like a BDS who is getting into insurance and a BDS with healthcare management background? What is the difference between the profiles?
See, for example, if you look at the education of dentistry, it's very specialized and niche, and you absolutely must go through the formal process of the 5.5 years of dentistry to become a dentist, right? So when you talk about a good manager, it's a very broad skill set, and you need not go through a formal education or an academic program to come out of it as a good manager.
Correct.
Or a good business professional. You can very well be anything, and be a good business professional simply by watching other business professionals, or learning from, now there is knowledge everywhere. If you just go on Google and type whatever business related topic you want to know more about, there's probably going to be very good knowledge already available over there that you can sort of get, and start to apply it in your day-to-day working. Maybe you've been very lucky to work with a very good manager, or you've had colleagues who have had a fantastic business sense and business acumen. Even sometimes our own parents, right, in the way that they handle things at home, even you can get a sense that, okay, this really makes more economic sense, so I would rather do this than do that, right? And you can pick these bites of knowledge from anywhere here. So, to answer your question, what is the difference between the profile? I would say, if you have a dental degree and a management degree, you just simply are better aware of how the business works. How, if you make this decision, how is it going to impact the profits, the losses? If I make this decision, is it easier for somebody to fraud, to create a fraud around this? Am I creating any loopholes by making this decision? You simply are a little more, I think, aware. The connections in your brain start to fire a little more rapidly, I think, because you're just aware of these things can happen. But if you're just as, maybe I'm just generalizing it. Maybe there are dentists who have far better business acumen than somebody with a whole, management degree, right? So I'm talking about just the general fresh BDS pass out who has had no experience. You might be very good with your clinical knowledge, but you're not too well versed with the business implications of the decisions you're making. So maybe it will take you 3-5 years to understand, okay, if I do this, here's what's going to happen. If I do that, that's going to probably go wrong. And, so you're just maybe a little lagging behind as a plain BDS graduate in the industry, when you're just, fresh off the boat and you're landing a job. But that's not to say that you will never succeed or you'll never do well. Probably you have to put in a lot more time and effort into understanding the space a little better. But I think if you have a management background, it does give you a little head start. I would say that, yes.
Yes, absolutely correct. And what are the skills that one should have, or they can, if somebody is trying to get into health insurance right after BDS, like how can they utilize their internship time to get into the space?
I think the internship time could be used to build connections in the industry. You start speaking with people who are already in the space, who are already doing, who are already having positions in the health insurance sector, and start to have conversations, start to zero down which are the areas that you're interested in. And then when you say make up your mind, I want to get into underwriting, or I want to get into actuarial. So then you look at what are the probably certifications that I can do to supplement my knowledge, to probably build my CV, or make it look a little more attractive to potential recruiters once I finish my internship. So you can use those 10 months or so to look at what additional certifications I can look at. It can be even used to do a distance learning MBA, for example. Okay. So yeah, so you can use that internship time to do that. Maybe somebody might even be interested in hiring you part time during your internship. To give you some chunk of work that you can do in your time, and you also get a flavor of, is this the work that I really like to do? Is this really what I thought it would be? Is it aligned to what my perception of this role was? Even if it's like the entry level job, how is it that the department is functioning? What are the people higher than me doing at the moment? And is that what I want to grow into? Right. So you could use that time to explore all of those options. Yeah.
Correct, correct. And now, since you mentioned about certifications, some basic certifications specifically for health insurance industry that one can look at, or they should do while they are in their internship.
I think it really depends on what country also you are pursuing this in. For example, my my certification that I've done additional to healthcare management was the CERT CII, which is the Chartered Institute of Insurance Institute, which is a UK affiliated certification. So the kind of the way of functioning over here is a mix between how things work in the UK and the US. So those applications which I learn in these certifications are something that I can use in my current profile now in this country, in this role that I am doing. Probably if I move to a different country in 5 years, this might not be relevant, and I might have to do something that is, more specific to that country I am in 5 years down the line, and the role that I am doing at that moment. So I really don't have, like a drop down list saying that A, B, C, D are the certifications that you should be doing. But I think if you really have the interest and if you have really narrowed down which sector you want to work in, um, and you speak with the relevant people in that sector, even if somebody asks me right now and says, what are the certifications you need to do in actuarial sciences, if I want to get into that space, I really wouldn't know that, because that's the space that I don't have much background and knowledge or experience in. So I would encourage people to speak with people who are in that space, doing that job day in and day out, and probably also have done those same certifications to get a better understanding of whether that really applies to me or not.
Correct, correct. And I think a basic understanding of health insurance is very, very important, because this sector or this kind of industry is something that is never heard of when you're doing your dental, dentistry education. So I think it's the internship time. One should try to understand this space first, and then define which certification or specialized certification they should get into. So yes, I think
Absolutely.
that is something that one should definitely explore on. Now, since you've been working in Dubai for almost like 5-6 years now, so we would like to
That's correct.
understand, or you can throw some light on how this health insurance industry works in Dubai.
So, like I have mentioned in the previous session, about the time that I ventured into or looked at coming into Dubai, that was the time that coincidentally the government was mandating that everyone who is in the country, every resident who's in the country should have a health insurance, right? Otherwise, it used to be all out of pocket expenditures towards one's own healthcare expenses. But now the government is mandating that you have to have a health insurance, even if it's just a basic level of coverage. You need to have a health insurance. So that's the baseline on which everything is working now. So what happens is that most of the people who are over here, like you might be aware, most of the population that is in Dubai is expat population. So that's people who have come from outside and are holding jobs or are on dependent visas, and um, are staying temporarily in the country. That's the status of most of the people who are in Dubai at the moment. And then there is the local population, the actual people of UAE, right? So that's some right now the distribution is as more of expats and less of the local population. So if you're an expat, you're either working on you're either on the payroll of some company, or you are dependent on someone who is on the payroll of a company. You're either the spouse of, or the child of, or the parent of someone who is on a payroll of a UAE based company, right? So what the government has mandated is that if you are a company that has base in the UAE or in Dubai, then you have to provide health insurance to all of your employees.
Okay.
Okay, so along with your salary, you also get a health insurance benefit. right? And the scope of it differs from company to company, role to role. So maybe you are given just a basic package, or maybe you are given a really fantastic health coverage where everything is covered, optical is covered, and dental is covered, and ayurvedic treatment is covered, and things like that. So that the scope is really vast, right? But the mandate is that every company should provide their employees with the health insurance coverage. So that's how the government makes sure that everyone who's on a resident visa in Dubai has a health insurance cover. So my company, what they do basically is we get in touch with such companies and we say, okay, if you have 10,000 employees, we will design a solution, or we will make sure that all 10,000 of your employees have a health insurance. So you buy the package from us, and we will give health insurance on your behalf to your 10,000 employees. So that's how we operate. So we have, say, 10 different clients to whose 10,000 employees we provide insurance to. And then there are also individual people who are not, say, they're on a freelance visa, or they are not associated with any company, or they simply want to supplement the health insurance coverage that their company is providing them. And they can approach us as individuals and buy health insurance company, not through a company. Through a company. So these are the two ways in which we are currently operating in the health insurance space. These are very broad. There are many more, arrangements in place, but I think that's a little too deep for this conversation. But these are the two main ways in which our company offers health insurance solutions to our clients at the moment.
I think, yeah, and that's a basic. I mean, like it's like a corporate insurance, and then private insurance ways that
Private insurance or an individual insurance.
yes, correct. That one can look at, correct. It's the same here also in India, also almost on the same lines. I think the insurance industry works on the same line, the basic. And then, of course, as you said, it might have various other verticals or sectors or spheres to get into. So, if one wants to explore a job opportunity in Dubai in health insurance, how should they start off with? Like, if I want to get into any organization in Dubai, how should I start off? Are there any job portals or any other kind of sites, or maybe connecting with people? How does it happen?
So, like I said in the previous session, you start with really doing your research with, what are the companies that have a base in Dubai in the health insurance space, or they might be even related to. Like I said, a lot of companies outsource their work to other companies. We call them TPAs, third party administrators. And I'm sure they're popular in India as well, who take on certain sectors, or maybe the entire, work from a health insurance company, and says, okay, for a fee, I will do this part of the work for you, right? So maybe if you're not keen on getting into, or you for some reason cannot get into a health insurance company, the parent company, you could get into, or look at getting into these companies which do that work for these companies, and then maybe grow in your career. Right. So, like I said, you make your first year of company, second year of company, third year of companies, and you find your way to where you want to be. Right. Just because you haven't at the first chance gotten into, say, the big multinational that you always wanted to, that's not. What I'm saying is that not to get discouraged just because for some reason at that time that room was not open, or you didn't get it and somebody else got it. There's ways to get into that dream space of yours that you have always envisioned for yourself. So start with looking what all companies are available and are operating in Dubai. You make your preference list. Once you make that preference list, there are some sites available, like for example, Dubisil, I think, or Payyouth also. Also, I think if you just Google and say health insurance jobs in Dubai, if there are any companies that are currently having open positions, they should show, because Google would take you to those websites, so based on keyword searches, right? And also you can directly go into the website. For example, I work with Aetna International, and after looking at or watching the stock, you feel like Aetna International is the company that I want to work in. You go to their website, you see if there are open opportunities at the moment, and you apply. That's how, most of the people do it over here. And of course, LinkedIn is a fantastic place. You make your connections, you start talking to people, and it may not be to have to ask for a job. It may just be like you want to build a connection, say hello, just tell people about what you're doing and what you're looking for. Just be relevant, stay alive in people's awareness. So something comes up and they're like, oh, XYZ got in touch with me, on LinkedIn 2 weeks ago. Their profile looked really good, and I think the work that they have done, or at least what they're interested in, is something that might be useful in this current role that I am looking at. Maybe let me get in touch with this ABC person and see if they are available, if they're keen, and that's how things work now. Really, it's not the traditional way anymore, where you had to really go door to door to each company asking for a job and things like that. You have to network. There is no substitute to you putting your work and your research and your network. There's absolutely no substitute to it. So, yes.
Correct. I think that's very, very important. Network building. We have always been very, very, always saying that this is one very important aspect to get into any kind of role if you want to get into, not just into healthcare, but any industry. Even as a dentist, if you want to work as an associate with somebody, you have to network yourself and you have to build connections and talk to people. I think that's one of the best and the fantastic ways one can get through. Yes. Also, I just wanted to understand, are there any recruitment agencies? Like, we know there are many, but any good ones that you're aware of which can help an individual get through an opportunity in the UAE?
I have heard of agencies like that, and I have also heard of those partnerships going really wrong. So I don't think I would want to endorse any of these agencies, because there's always a risk associated. So I don't want to, sort of say that these are good or these are bad. I have, like most things, I have also heard good stories. I've also heard bad stories. So I don't think I would want to endorse any agency on this platform. If somebody comes across an agency and they feel they can trust it, or they have known somebody, personally, who have gotten a job through this agency, by all means, they should, pursue it. But I know that the fees are pretty hefty sometimes that they charge to have you placed in a particular company. And, there's of course a cost involved, there's a risk involved. So, I would really say do your research before associating with such agencies. Yeah.
Correct. So I think it's very important to do their own research to find out about an agency, how good or how bad they are, and then take a wise decision. You can also talk to people who have used their services, and then I think that can also help in taking a decision. Yes, correct. So lastly, we would like to know, what is the average pay scale in Dubai for a fresher? Also, in terms of like, how much is the minimum salary that one can look at if they have a family of 3 or a family of 4 trying to move to Dubai? How much would would you suggest that X amount is enough if you are earning to move to Dubai?
And that becomes a very individual, like a benchmark. For someone, maybe they are okay to live in a small flat. 1 BHK is enough, and they are okay with that space, and they're happy within that. Maybe somebody wants to. Maybe their idea of a comfortable life is a villa, 4 bedrooms, because we are 4 people in the house, and that's how we've always lived in India, and that's the lifestyle I want to also match in Dubai. So it becomes very individual. But if I would have to put like a ballpark figure on someone who's a fresher who's coming into an entry level role, you could look at somewhere between say 1.5 to 2 lakhs a month. Mm-hmm. I think I'm being very conservative here. It of course depends on how well you have done in the interview, or what is a general pay scale a company follows. Some companies, they are just by nature of being multinational, they want to have a standard pay scale throughout their offices. So maybe they want to match what this role would be paid in the US, for example. And just by the fact that that currency is much more as compared to, say a Dubai or an India, just by that virtue, your salary will be much higher, right? Because at that bracket, all those salaries are supposed to be similar,
Yeah.
right? So it depends on what your role is. It depends on what company you have gotten yourself into. You also depends on how well you have been able to market yourself. And that's I always keep saying that you have to. Personal branding is very important. You have to put in a lot of work into how is it that you want people to perceive you. What is it that you bring to the table, and what value you're willing to put on the work or the contribution that you will be making to that company. So if if you don't want to go down a level below, then you simply shouldn't, right? That's how it works really. So like I said, a ballpark figure for someone who is a fresher with no experience and a basic level company, you could look at that amount between 1.5 to 2 lakhs per month. And is that enough to sustain a family of four in Dubai? I have seen people do that. You live within your means. You find areas where the rents are lower, or you find ways to make that situation work for you. And then maybe a couple of years down the line, you find a better paying job, and you grow through the ranks like that. But whether is it sufficient? I think is it enough is a very personal question. Maybe what is enough for me might not be enough for you. So yeah, again, your research and your decision making has to be very personal to you.
Correct. Absolutely. So this figure that you mentioned, this was for Indian rupees, right?
Indian rupees, yes.
Yes, I think that's fair enough. And as you mentioned, it's definitely a personal choice. I mean, like you can have a better life even less than that. You can have a better life if you're earning more than that. It's totally a personal choice.
Yeah.
How do you spend that money? How do you plan your budget? Is totally an individual's choice. So yes, absolutely correct. So thank you so much, Dr. Moona, for coming on our channel again and sharing all the insights about the industry, about health insurance. How can one start off? What are the various operating areas that one can look at? The sector subsectors that we have in health insurance. So thank you very much for sharing all the insights once again.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure being on your channel again. And like I said, it's a fantastic platform, and I really hope that people will make good use of this.
Thank you so much. So all you audience, I hope you got all your answers, your questions answered through our session on this insurance, because you do get a lot of questions and you've been pouring in questions about this space. So thank you so much for everyone patiently listening to us. I will sign off now, and before I do that, please subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free. Like and share this video in the network. This might help out somebody who's looking to get into the sector after BDS or MDS, and even the care management students. So thank you so much, everyone. I will sign off now. I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye and good luck.